was just in awe.
Sabu really had a ring presence. He really showed experience in the ring. From the second the bell rang and the way he approached the opening of the match by diving at the feet, I thought was something you don't see with a lot of wrestlers in this area. It was a different style. Just incredible match. Sabu I had never seen wrestle before. I'd only heard good things about him, and he lived up to expectations. Sabu came in with a completely polished ring presence that I don't know how you could have more high-risk moves than in this one. They literally flew from the ring onto the ringside area. Sunset flip
from the ring onto the floor.
That was Sabu who did that.
Yep. And the Sabu match, that was hands down the greatest match I've ever seen.
It was like when someone died to become a saint. Not to me, though. When you die, if you're not a saint before you die, you died a sinner. And I don't mean that truly, but people die. He was such a great guy. Tell him when he was alive, he was a great guy.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Iron on Wrestling with Gregory Iron. I'm your host, Gregory Iron. This is episode 292. And, well, I usually try to rhyme, and coincidentally, with the subject of this podcast, 292, thank you, Sabu. The legendary, iconic, trailblazing, game changer known as Sabu. Homicidal, suicidal, genocidal. Passed away, unfortunately. I believe it was announced. Geez, time flies. Sunday. It was Sunday when everybody found out about it, unfortunately. And because of his passing, this week we're going to keep it simple. We're just going to replay the older interview that we did with Sabu, from a couple of years ago, 2022. And we had a little bit of a different interview with Sabu than he usually has, because if you follow the show at all, you know that he has a history with our favorite guy to talk about over the years, other than Rod Destiny, Howard Animal Steel. And this interview was from episode 143. And, man, you think a guy like Sabu will never die. He was just one of those guys that, coming up as a kid, there was two people that I was afraid of watching ECW. As funny as this sounds, one was Tajiri, and if you only know Tajiri from the WWE, you are missing out on the Tajiri of ECW, because there was something sort of terrifying about him, the Japanese buzzsaw. And then, of course, Sabu. He didn't talk. He was like, I'm pretty positive he was the first guy that really showed up on a regular basis when the lights went out and came back on, and you had Sabu, right? His feud with Taz is something of mythical proportions. It's something that I caught right when I started watching ECW, and it seemed larger than life. Sabu was larger than life. Before I ever saw Sabu, I saw him during the Invasion angle in WWF, not the shitty Invasion, the one where they were promoting the first pay-per-view in 97 where he fell off the R infamously. But I'd seen him in the magazines, and I think as a kid that didn't have the internet, that's how a lot of us first discovered Sabu, just reading about him. And there was something unhinged about him, right? There was something that seemed like he was out of a horror movie. Again, that goes back to the fear of Sabu. He was really the guy that brought barbed wire matches to America. Of course, the Born to be Wired match with Terry Funk, that's so famous from ECW. And then really the high-flying style that was Sabu, the jumping off the chairs, the moonsaults to the floor. He was really one of the first guys to do that. And so, I I always enjoyed watching him growing up. As I became a wrestler, he wasn't someone I looked to try to steal stuff from because, I mean, quite frankly, I couldn't do the stuff Sabu did. And over the years, I had the opportunity to share a locker room with him many of times. And it wasn't until the last few years working for GCW that I got to talk to him and know him a little bit, which is how, between myself and Aaron, we were able to arrange a podcast with him. Sabu was always, I don't want to say charming to be in the locker room with, but because he was shy. But if you got a conversation going with him, you knew that, you could get a little twinkle in his eye and get some laughs out of him, and he can get some laughs out of you. The time that stands out to me, of course, in just shooting the shit with him is when I brought up Howard Animal Steel, and he started cracking up laughing. He's like, "How the fuck do you know who that is?" And then, that really formed a bond with us. And this was after we had worked together. So we did a little bit of stuff in GCW where I think me and Bobby had to kind of attack him, but we had to be easy with him. We had to take it easy with him because, even as recently as 3 years ago, Sabu was beat the fuck up pretty badly. And, so we took it easy. And even when we did the thing with him in Hammerstein in 2022, he was not in a good physical place. It's crazy how long he did what he did, because if you go back to, what was it, 2005? He took that break for a cup of coffee. Didn't he get he got sick or something for a second? Or he was really banged up to where we never thought 20 years ago for a second that we were going to see Sabu actively compete. So for what he did for independent wrestling for the next 20 years, and of course sporadic appearances for TNA, AEW, he was in WWE for a cup of coffee under the ECW brand. It's crazy to think about. Even during his WWE run, the things that he did in the short time he was there. I mean, if you recall, he had a match with Big Show on pay-per-view on SummerSlam. That doesn't even seem like a real thing that should have happened, right? Big Show versus Sabu at SummerSlam. Or how about on pay-per-view, John Cena versus Sabu? A real thing that happened. Go back and watch that. Very entertaining. One Night Stand might be my fondest memory of him returning to the WWE version of ECW to wrestle Rey Mysterio for the World Heavyweight Championship. Again, think about that. In 2006, the World Heavyweight Championship, Sabu versus Rey Mysterio. How is that a thing that happened? Well, it did. It's crazy, and I've heard a lot of people say it, and I'm going to reiterate it here. Sabu was such a game changer, such an innovator, that the fact that he wasn't more well off financially is crazy. He, he was in WCW for a second, and, depending on the way you hear the story, I think Sabu was told it one way and then told it a different way, and Kevin Sullivan said something, but, he had a contract on the table either in 1995 or in other interviews, Sabu said 99, 2000, to where it was going to be $400,000 a year, and they said he had to sign it right away. And then he wanted to call his mom. His mom had a heart attack on the phone. He went back to to go see her in the emergency room. By the time a couple days later went by, he went to go sign it. Kevin Sullivan said the deal's off the table now. It's too late. And Paula E. Was threatening to sue WCW. A lot of shit was happening. A lot of factors at play that didn't allow that to happen. And it's unfortunate because, again, so many individuals were inspired by Sabu. The person that I know that I'm closest with, Zach Gowen. Zach Gowen, of course, on WWE TV, 22 years ago was saying on TV that he was inspired by Hulk Hogan, but that was a storyline. In reality, the person that really got him going right after he got treated for cancer was Ric Flair. Then fast forward, the person that inspired him athletically as a wrestler was Sabu. Now, when you watch Zach, if you didn't know that, you will see the Sabu inspiration despite him having one leg. And as this airs, Zach has already competed for AEW And I'm so proud of him. That'll be a whole thing that we'll have to discuss in a bonus podcast. I figured I'm just going to keep it simple this week, just air this episode. I'm not going to do any bonus episode for patreon.com/IronWrestling until later on in the week. I had questions posted on social media for you guys to submit in. So be on the lookout for that on Patreon. But, you know, I don't know. Like, the Sabu death hit me because, you know, I wouldn't say Sabu was a friend, right? But he was a colleague and someone that I grew up watching. And now knowing that I got the opportunity to share locker rooms with him and conversations with him and got to know the guy. And also, listen, I'm editing out the last part of the interview from 2 years ago. But in the original interview, you know, he was not in a good place when I tried to close out the conversation. And, you know, when I asked him what inspired him, he basically said nothing inspires him anymore. And he was mentally battling a lot after he lost, you know, Melissa Coates. And that, of course, was Jeannie. When she passed away, I think, you know, that put Sabu in a bad place. And, you know, as of the recording, nothing's come out officially about his cause of death. But, you know, I know he was definitely battling those demons as far as, you know, grief goes. And there's been some shit on social media about how GCW treated him in his final match and whatever, or how Joey might have treated him or Brett might have treated him. I have no insight to that. I know I saw clips from the match and it looked like Sabu was, you know, fucking brutalizing himself for sure. Maybe Sabu knew that really was going to be his final go. I don't know. I'm not in the man's head. I have no idea. I know that I'm not going to watch the match, by the way. After seeing the bumps that he took, and I guess this happens when, you know, you feel like you have some sort of like a connection with someone, like a friendship. I had no desire to watch the full match just because I don't want to see that dude putting himself through that pain, which he put himself through in for, you know, 35, 40 years for our entertainment. And knowing how hurt he was 3 years ago when I went to work with him, I don't want to watch that match. But what I did watch was the post-match promo, and Joey Janela seemed very genuine in the things that he said about Sabu, about him being his favorite wrestler, about him being on his Mount Rushmore of pro wrestlers. He gave him his Hall of Fame plaque that Sabu didn't show up for the year prior, not because he is known for no-showing bookings, but he's embarrassed. Sabu, I don't think, likes a spotlight on him like that. You know, again, I think I've referenced this before on the show, but to kind of put it in perspective, how humble Sabu could be and how little that he understood what a trendsetter in professional wrestling that he was. When we do the thing where we throw a chair at someone's head, most guys won't just say, I'll toss the chair at your head. They'll say, I'll Sabu you with the chair. Okay? Because most notably, it was done by Sabu. And I was in the locker room once when Matt Justice was working with Sabu, and Matt Justice said to Sabu, I'm going to Sabu you with the chair. And Sabu looked at him very confused, and then he just went, what the fuck is that? What does that mean? Just because he had no idea that, like, he did something so iconic, so simple, but so iconic that no one else did, that we basically named it after him. He didn't know what Sabu you with a chair meant. So, you know, that's all I have to say. You know, whatever happens to us when we pass on, you know, I hope Sabu is out there still FUing the people that he didn't like, and I hope that he is in some way blessing those that he did. And, you know, thank you, Sabu, for allowing me and Aaron the privilege of Aaron, of course, booking you in the past, me just sharing locker rooms with you and conversations and sharing the ring with you. That means a lot to me now more than ever. And, we will never forget Terry Brunk. Sabu will live forever. Enjoy the interview. We'll see you guys next week. All right, guys, this week we have a big guest, and this is another get from good old Aaron here. Aaron, thank you very much. He went back in his old Rolodex. Is that what they called it, Rolodex?
Yeah, that's what they called it.
All right. And he got someone that I've worked with not too long ago. He is suicidal, homicidal, genocidal. It's Sabu. Sabu, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
We are excited to talk with you because there's been so much of your career that you've covered in the past that's very well known, a lot of it in ECW, your time in WWE. But on this show, we've covered a lot of ridiculousness within pro wrestling. And one of the most popular topics on this show is because of Aaron. And it is the man that was trained, that trained Aaron, that being Rod Destiny, of course, a longtime close personal friend of yours, if you want to call him that, Howard Animal Steel. And I really wanted to sort of delve into your thoughts and your history with the fake George Steele.
Well, I met him before I started wrestling. When I first started training, he was my uncle's bodyguard, or so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was called King Kong something. And he was a wrestler, and he was terrible. He was terrible. He was going bald anyways. So Uncle said, "Shave your head. You're going bald anyways." So he shaved his head, and it so happened that he was all hairy and looked like George Steele. Howard the Animal Steel. He looked like George Steele,
Yeah. Now, so like
Steele, you know George Steele personally, it didn't look like George Steele. But if you knew him from like wrestling, it looked like George Steele.
Yeah. Well, like the thing that boggles my mind, because I didn't know anything about Howard before I met Aaron. I started wrestling in 2006, but the fact that he was able to legitimately fool people, because I've seen video of him since, like he clearly is not George Steele to this day. I don't know if you realize this, Sabu, but so he lived in Lorain, Ohio for a long period of time. And so in this general area, when people find out that I'm a wrestler or that Aaron works in wrestling, they always say, well, I grew up with around George Steele, or like he passed away not too long ago. So people think that legitimately George Steele passed away. Like, how in the hell did this guy fool so many people? It's crazy.
I don't know. He used to wear jewelry too, and it was fake. It turns his by the end of the day, his hands were all black from turning.
Yeah. That's what I heard. He would. Aaron says that he used to sell this jewelry out of a pink Cadillac. Do you remember anything about this?
Yes, it was. It used to be owned by Elvis's estate.
Yeah,
okay. What a ridiculous scenario. Now, Aaron, if you want to tell Sabu the event that you remember.
Here's the event I remember the most. I went there in that limo with Rod and my buddy Sal, and then Animal's kid and Animal. Rod drove there all the way out to Monaca for November to Remember '97, I want to say it was. And so we pull up in the back, and Animal's like, everybody stay in the car except for me and Rodney. And they went and got a bunch, like you and a bunch of other ECW wrestlers, brought him out to the limo. He pops the trunk, and he's got like a briefcase full of like bunk jewelry, like shitty gold jewelry. And I want to say Rob Van Dam turned around, and he goes, "Fuck this." And he turns around, he pisses on the tree, but he didn't know that there were 6 people in the limo because the windows were tinted. He was just pissing all over the car and the tree.
Do you remember?
He used to always sell me fake Rolexes. They break in a week.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Now, did any of the other boys ever have any interactions with Animal through you?
Not really. He only came around because I invited him, and like I said, any of the boys, they knew that wasn't George Steele. They knew it wasn't.
Yeah.
George Steel personally, you know it's not him.
Yeah, right. I mean, obviously, it makes sense. What was your relationship like with him? Like, did you feel like you had to be nice to this dude because of his relationship with your uncle, or like what was that dynamic like with him?
Yes, he was a very nice and kind guy, anyways. But I had that obligation of he was good to my uncle. I had to be good to him. You know.
Yeah. How long did he wrestle while you were wrestling?
I don't know when he started, but he didn't really ever really wrestle. He just did help somebody. He didn't really call it wrestling. I don't know. He didn't wrestle that long. He did the gimmick more than he did wrestle. You know.
Hey, let me interrupt here for a second. I saw in the worst match I've ever seen in my life. It was the Iron Sheik versus Howard the Animal Steel inside the high school gymnasium. They never got in the ring.
I believe it.
Yeah, they brawled on the outside, and then the only time Iron Sheik got in the ring was when he was challenging people to do Persian clubs.
Yeah. I never seen the Animal or Howard have a good match, even before he was George Steele.
Now, so like for me, I feel like the scenario of Animal Steel is the most ridiculous fake gimmick that I've ever encountered on the indies, mostly because of the false advertising that went along with it. Like he would be on these flyers and these posters that I have possession of now that say Animal Steel. So people would think it was George, but then it would end up being Howard. Can you think of on your time in the indies, someone that had a more ridiculous fake gimmick than Howard?
Yeah, but there's a lot of them. Yeah, there's worse than him. Yeah.
Are there any that come to mind? Because I know, like every promotion, it seemed like they had like a Doink back in the day.
Well, there's this one guy from Kentucky. I think it was Kentucky. His name was Preston Mustard. His real name, and he used it. I said, of all people who use the real name, not that one.
Right? Yeah. Jesus, come up with something better than that. I do know. We've never talked about on the show.
Check it out. In a small town in Ohio, he was the fire chief, the police chief, and the sheriff.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Why the hell would he want to be a wrestler?
What's that?
Why would he want to be a wrestler with all those gigs?
Right, and the rest I know.
So ridiculous.
He wasn't neither one of them. He wasn't any of them. He was the shits at all of them.
That's awful. So obviously, too, on top of talking about Animal, we wanted to touch on your relationship with Rod Destiny, because he sort of has a cult following within the show based on some of the videos that we've posted of his independent wrestling days, and obviously his interactions with you. I started to talk to you about it briefly when we were hanging out at GCW. I think the most infamous scenario involving you and Rod, which would be this tag match that occurred for Universal Championship Wrestling. Can you talk to me about the events leading up to that? Because you showed up to the building with what was it?
Bobby Duncombe Jr.,
yeah, Tommy
Wildfire Rich, Tracy Smothers, Little Guido, Sabu, and Pee Wee Moore.
Sabu, do you remember how this scenario played out and how how the match itself culminated with you guys turning on Rod multiple times in the match?
Well, we had to put him in his place. He booked himself in the main event and didn't earn it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we had to put him in his place and get paid too. Also,
right.
Boss. It just during the match, he got frustrated on how bad he was. Nothing personal against him. He got better now, but we're frustrated with him. And I said, lay it in on him. Let him have it.
Yeah. Do you remember
one time? I think Bobby Duncan cracked me with the cowbell about.
He sure did.
Yeah, he sure. I mean, he got his ass beat in that match. I was.
I love Rod. I love Rod Destiny. He's a nice guy. But, if you're a nice guy, don't mean you're the main event.
Yeah. What are your memories of working in UCW in Lorain, Ohio? Does anything stand out to you during that time? Especially because around that time period, correct me if I'm wrong, this is like 97. You weren't doing a lot of indies. Like you were mainly ECW, or am I wrong when I say that?
I was doing that as a favor for Animal.
Yep.
He introduced me to Rod Destiny. I only did it because he recommended it, and it was a payday for me and my friends. Tracy's mother's Van Dam, whoever. It was an easy payday for him. And I was on my way home from Philadelphia, anyways, and I usually drove every week to from Michigan to Philly or Michigan to New York, wherever it was. It was like 10 hours, 10, 12 hours. And on the way back, we hit in Ohio, Lorraine, and that's how it started. I just did it as a favor. It wasn't nothing personal.
Because we had you in quite a bit. I remember there was one time the newspaper printed the wrong time. So you and Tracy were set to work. And there was about 6 people in the audience because you guys were supposed to work at 2 and the paper put 7 o'clock. And then I came back at 7 o'clock and there was a bunch of people there. But we were all gone by then.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, not your fault. Hey, I just also, while I got you here, I wanted to thank you for introducing me and bringing me Hito, bad boy Hito, into my life.
Hito died.
Yeah, I know, man. I just found out. I think Greg was the one that texted me the day that it happened, right?
Yeah, I found out through Eric Ryan, who does a lot of deathmatch stuff. He posted something on the internet, and we've often talked about Hito on the show a lot because of Aaron's relationship with him over the years. And Aaron had tried to reconnect with him because he had managed him so often during his time here in the States. And man, it was just like, it was hard for me to break it to him. And I didn't know how, Aaron was going to take it. And, obviously I don't want to speak for you, but I think you took it pretty rough, right?
Yeah. Well, I hadn't seen him in a long time. And then I saw Sabu had posted that he said, my brother died.
Yeah.
And then I saw the picture. Man, I gotta tell you, I got emotional. What a good dude Hito was.
Yeah, he sure was. He sure was. He was my second in Japan for a little while, for 2 months. Like my young boy, a second, like a bodyguard. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to come to the States, so I helped him get booked and I helped pay him, because he didn't make much money,
Well, because
and a few other guys.
I remember Rod wanted to book weekly shows, and that was the whole thing with Hito staying in Lorraine, was that he would get to work every week, and it didn't work. I don't know what happened. Rod ran on Mondays at 8 p.m. airing the Monday Night Wars. So nobody was coming to see us, and he stopped running after 2 weeks, and then I think Hito went to Kentucky. But
we're Ian Rotten. I hooked him up with Ian Rotten.
I remember that. I don't know if you can see this, but one of our listeners on the Patreon got this painting done of me and Hito. So I thought that was pretty cool, man. What a good dude.
Yeah, do you have any?
My heart broke when I heard he died. It really did.
What are your favorite memories of your time with Hito?
I have a lot of them in Japan where I wrestled him, and we ribbed each other and shit like that. There was one time we went to a bar in Japan, and he got so drunk he got naked, and I got arrested. We had a Bailey Mountain shit, but he was such a good guy. He was a good guy. He was a good student and a good guy.
Yeah. It's sad. I feel like maybe it's because we're more aware of it because we do the podcast every week, but it feels like almost every week we're talking about someone that we knew that passed away. And, we mentioned briefly, the tag match with you guys and Rod and Tracy Smothers. And Tracy was someone that Aaron and I were both close with. He was the first name I ever worked with. When you think of Tracy Smothers, what are your memories of working with Tracy and what kind of guy he was?
I think the world of him, and I only have great memories of him. I'm so heartbroken about him dying also.
Yeah,
he was such a good guy. He was always wanting to help the younger guys more than I did. Some of the times it was painful. He always did it.
Yeah, he
always generous. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say that I can't think of a more giving guy that I've interacted with over the years than Tracy. I mean, always going out of his way to help others and watch matches. And you just don't get a lot of that anymore with the veterans. I think guys don't really appreciate what Tracy really had to offer in the locker room.
He would get in the ring with them and spar with them before the show.
Yeah.
I would do a little bit, but a little bit. He did a lot. I didn't do that much.
Sabu, I remember him leading class like a couple hours before doors would open. He'd take all the guys that wanted to, even local guys. If you just came and were hanging out, he was like, "Yeah, get in the ring. Let's see."
Right.
Sabu,
yes.
When you think of the new generation of wrestlers coming up, and you talk about giving back to the younger wrestlers, is there anybody on the indies right now that stands out to you that you like going out of your way for to help, or someone that you sort of see a lot of potential in?
Yes, but you probably never heard of them. There's nobody on TV, there's this Santana Jackson, he's great, and Human Tornado is great. I'm hoping they get a break sometime,
Yeah.
But I don't watch much wrestling.
I got you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I've just been thinking, you've been doing GCW the last couple times. You did the show in New York. You did the show in Detroit. It was really a homecoming for you in Detroit, and the reception for you was great. It was an honor and pleasure to get to work with you that night. My question for you is, you hear a lot of rumblings from guys like Jerry Lynn when he comes out and he's at the shows that he really compares the atmosphere of GCW to that of ECW. And someone like yourself that was so entrenched into ECW, do you see those comparisons between the two?
Yes, I do. What's the same is those fans will watch any wrestling, no matter how good or bad it is. Those fans will come anyways. That's how ECW fans were. They didn't care how good the wrestling was. They came anyways,
Yeah. How did you feel being in the Hammerstein Ballroom again for GCW on pay-per-view? How was the atmosphere for you? Was it as cool of a moment for you as it was for all the younger guys getting that reception in that building?
Yeah, it was. I was pretty nervous. I was very nervous and excited, and it turned out really good. And the reaction was great.
Do you still get nervous often? Because I like that. That just kind of surprises me hearing that from you, because it's like, I think of the Sabu character.
I was nervous all day waiting for this phone call.
No, come on, get out of here.
No, I get nervous even for a fucking interview.
Wow.
If you're being serious about it, I know that. Like I feel that, and I know he's told me that before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Sabu, you got nothing to worry about. You're
one of the
legend.
funniest dudes I ever rode with. I remember picking you and Tracy up from the airport.
It's not about worrying. It's about doing a good job. I always want to do a good job. So I doubt myself all day long until the time comes. I doubt myself. Well, I'll do a good job.
I get that. I feel like
even when it comes to talking,
when you're decent at what you do,
I don't talk too good.
No, you talk fine. I feel like when you're decent at what you do, both like as a performer and as an individual, I just feel like we're our own biggest critics, right? Because I wrestle with cerebral palsy, and that affects my right hand, and sometimes I get in my own head about being able to keep up with the guys that I'm in the ring with, just because I want it to be good. I don't want people to look at me as like the disabled guy. I just want to be a good pro wrestler, right? So
I understand.
Yeah. So I get where you're coming
from.
I
have a lot of offers right now about saying, come back and wrestle. I said, no, I'm too hurt. They go, no, we'll take care of you. I don't want to be taken care of. If I can't hold my own, I'm not going to do it. If I can't hold my own weight, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to have someone else pull my weight.
I totally get that. What was your last match?
I had one in California. The cocksucker tricked me into working. Talked me into working. I told him I couldn't work. I'm too hurt and I'm heartbroken. It was right after Melissa died. A month or so after Melissa died.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to work, and I couldn't work. And he begged me and begged me and begged me, and said, "Just show up." I said, "Okay." I showed up, but I showed up, and he's announcing all day long about me wrestling. So I said, "Fuck, I got to do it." So I went out and did it. But my about 5 minutes into the match, we took a bump out of the ring, and my legs gave out. I couldn't stand up for a second. So I said, "Fuck it." And I just walked away. That was my last match. And I apologize to every fan individually, one-on-one, told them I'm sorry. The motherfucker talked me into it. I shouldn't have been in the ring.
Yeah, that man, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
How gonna be if I can't hold my own? I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I get it. And it's what a shitty thing for the promoter to do to know that
You're guilty, and he misled the fans. He misled me, and the cocksucker.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. And I'm speaking for Aaron and myself, and I'm sure everyone when we say we're sorry for your loss with Melissa, man. I hope you're doing the best you can with that currently.
Thank you. It's good to hear. It's the toughest time in my life right now.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Sabu, I wanted to pivot a little bit and ask you about an incident that happened in Lorraine with you and the ring announcer. Do you remember this?
No. I couldn't, right?
Yep. I have it on video, man. From 20 years ago.
Yeah, I didn't hurt him though. I just cut him a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Do you remember how that came about?
No, I don't remember exactly, but I think the referee was a smartass to me. And so when the match was over, I grabbed him and gaffed him. I think. Yeah, if I remember.
Yeah,
I think he was being an asshole to me today, and I got it back. I can't quite remember.
Hank Hudson talks about that to this day, about how he was terrified, but he didn't want any heat with you, so he didn't say anything, and he didn't care, but he was just terrified in that moment.
He was never safer hands than mine. That's my cut.
I believe it. And anything else you want to talk about, Aaron?
Sabu, when you had the Winnebago,
oh yeah,
I remember we went to a Nitro in Cleveland, putting up flyers and stuff. I have no idea why you were there with us. Why you would go to Nitro? But Pee Wee was driving, and we got out. We were walking around, and then I think somebody with Bischoff came up and yelled at Rod Destiny and said they had to leave because he saw him putting up flyers and posters. Do you remember this at all?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't remember.
It was wild.
It seems like a ridiculous.
You had the tanning beds in the Winnebago, right?
Yeah, a stand-up one, a Hex.
Yeah.
I had weights too. I had 2,000 pounds of weights. I had a tanning bed, full refrigerator, and full bedroom. I had a house on wheels.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
sounds like a dream.
I bring my ex-wife with me at the time and my dog.
I was telling him about that one time you had me watch a dog when you went out and worked, and the dog had gotten out and ran to the ring. You remember that?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought it was over for me.
Oh, I do remember. I do remember. He got up to the ring and was scared to death, I think.
Yeah.
I think I do remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he got to the ring, he was scared to death. That's funny to remember that.
I mean, the Winnebago with all those amenities for a wrestler, like a tanning bed, weights. I mean, it seems like the way to go for travel at the time. And it almost seems ahead of its time. I mean, that wasn't typical for guys to be driving around.
Now they all the big guys got tour buses. John Cena, The Rock, Hogan, all those guys, Randy Orton, they all have buses now.
Yeah. It's a big change.
Yeah.
When you think
I had a motorhome, big difference. A tour bus is about $1 million. a motorhome was only about 100,000. Big difference.
Yeah.
When did you end up getting rid of that?
About 3 years after I got it, it was so expensive. The price of gas was so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was an 80-gallon tank, and I got 15 miles to the gallon. I couldn't drive it no more.
Yeah. That'll get expensive for sure. Jesus.
Killed me. When I had ECW, I was jamming, so I didn't care. But after ECW, I didn't have that steady paycheck, and the gas prices went up between then, and I couldn't afford to drive anymore.
Yeah. Going forward, obviously, as I mentioned before, you stayed busy with those GCW bookings, and you're still, a legendary figure within professional wrestling. Do you have anything coming up in the future as far as appearances or anything like that?
Yeah, I got autograph signings almost every weekend. I don't have one this weekend or last weekend, but usually I do. I don't have nothing offhand other than I don't know, WrestleMania weekend. I don't even know who that's for. I don't know what to plug. I don't know who it's for.
That's fine. Something I found quite interesting too that I sort of want to mention before we begin to wrap up here is is it a children's book or is it a coloring book?
It's a coloring book. It's a coloring book. It's a joke because I heard the Young Bucks wrote a children's book. I go, that sounds like pedophile shit. So I'm the right one. So might be a coloring book.
Yeah.
So we got to drawing up.
Yeah.
But it's about killing the pigs and eating them. So it's not a children's book. I don't think.
Okay. Where's that available? Can you get it on Amazon or where's it at?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon, or you can order through me, but I would have you order it at Amazon.
Cool. And if someone wanted to buy merch or anything like that, is there a way they can support you online?
Yeah, my Twitter is at the Real Sabu ECW. My Facebook is Terry Brunk, which I don't like to hear, but what it is. And my Instagram is at therealsabu.com. No, the Real Sabu ECW. And I guess that's about it. I don't do my stuff. I don't like doing that. But anyways.
I gotcha. Before we wrap up, first of all, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us. It's been a pleasure. And, I really respect everything that you've done in professional wrestling and for professional wrestling. You are a true innovator, and the legacy that you leave behind. When you think of the legacy of Sabu, what do you want people to remember about you? And going forward in your life, what inspires you? What keeps you going today?
Legacy, I guess my work rate. When I got in the business, it was take it easy as possible, and I changed that to work as hard as possible. So I'm proud of that. So hopefully the guys can continue to work hard.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, Sabu, we can't think.
There's nothing driving me today. There's nothing. I'm nothing. I'm nothing.
Oh, don't say. Hey, listen, man. Like this is an incredibly challenging situation that you've been going through, and I don't wish it upon anyone. I'm sorry that you're going through that, but I want you to know that you've been an inspiration to so many people, and man, I can't imagine what you're going through, right? But I want you to know that people do care about you and people do love you, and we can't thank you enough for everything that you've done and you continue to do, for sure.
Well, thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Greatest of all time, Sabu. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Sabu.
All right.
Thank you.